Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my second stab through the fucking heart of the Expendables 3. The best Expendables yet, my ass. What the fuck were you smoking, Fred Topel from Crave Online? Like I understand people have different opinions and that's cool and all, but I don't understand why anyone, unless they're high as fucking shit, would think that the best Expendables movie was the Expendables 3. To me, this is the moment where the franchise killed itself. It not only jumped off a cliff, but it jumped off a cliff willingly into water that was electrified and full of great white sharks that have not been fed in days. Why would you willingly jump into those kind of waters? I don't know. The decisions that the writers and the producers made with this movie are so destructive to the core of the franchise that it's mind-blowing. You cannot believe the choices that they decided to make. It goes beyond just trying to make more money with the PG-13 rating. So the film is directed by Patrick Hughes, who was Stallone's hand-picked errand boy. That's really what he was. This was a director that Stallone got because he knew he could push him around and essentially direct the movie himself, but not have to deal with the Directors Guild or any of that other shit, or have to put his name on it in case the movie bombed, which it did. And no, it didn't bomb just because it was leaked online before its release. This film was going to bomb, period, because it's just two giant middle fingers to fans of the first two films. I thought the second movie was disappointing, but at least it was still rated R. At least it still, at its core, was trying to be respectful and appreciative of classic 80s, 90s, and action movies. It knew its audience. This, on the other hand, it just tells its audience to fuck off. It's like, oh, those action heroes that you like, they're too old. It's time for some new blood. Whenever that happens in a franchise, the franchise is fucked. Can you think of a single time where you have had a franchise that has been running for years that in like the third installment all of a sudden is trying to put the original cast on the back burner, trying to replace them? I can't. Can you imagine if that happened with Harry Potter or with Fast and the Furious or Star Trek or any of these other really long-running franchises? I mean, yes, you had other Star Trek franchises like spin-offs like Next Generation and so on, but they didn't happen like in the middle of like after Star Trek 3, all of a sudden it's just a new Star Trek cast that's introduced, and Captain Kirk and company are barely even in the movie, and there's this whole subplot about how they're too old and they should retire. No, that doesn't happen because it's fucking stupid. It's idiotic beyond belief. So yeah, Patrick Hughes, he's the director here, and he sucks. He's clearly out of his league. He's clearly too wet behind the ears. The way that he directs action is lethargic, and it almost reminds me of a fucking documentary. And you know what? I've actually seen nature documentaries that are more exciting and more thrilling to watch in terms of their direction than what Patrick Hughes brought to the table here. I mean, his direction is nothing special. I've seen directing this caliber on countless episodes of some action TV show on cable TV. That's pathetic. Say what you want about Simon West. He was a legitimately talented director who had directed some films like Con Air in the past, and he knew what he was doing. He wasn't some rookie director. I'm not saying that Patrick Hughes might not ultimately do some good stuff, because he did. I like the Hitman's Bodyguard, but here it just wasn't that great. It just lacked energy, it lacked life, it was flatlined. The action sequences and the rest of the movie had no gas. It was like a car that was just spinning its wheels perpetually. And I think a big part of that probably is because he had no passion for this. It's like, why would he? Probably did it just so he could have it on his resume. And that's arguably probably why he got the job for Hitman's Bodyguard. So in some ways, it did work out. But I just wish that the direction was still more dynamic. But really, the biggest issues have to go down to two things: the screenplay and the cast. The script by Stallone, Creighton Rothenberger, and Katrin Benedict. This script sucks. This is a abysmal screenplay. This is the kind of script that's disrespectful to the fans of this series and disrespectful to the core beliefs and overall vibe and just feel of this franchise. Yes, the franchise was starting to go downhill because Expendables 2 was disappointing, but at least they decided not to go forward with the idea of making it PG-13 and cutting its balls off, even though that's initially what they planned on doing, and you can tell. But then with Expendables 3, they decided to go all the way. Let's fucking neuter it. This never works. How many times do I have to tell you it doesn't work? Like, even with the rare exception or two, like Live Free or Die Hard, that worked because it was a good script. If you're not going to bring a good script to the table, then cutting the balls off a franchise that's R-rated is not going to work. It's going to be a failure every single time. And even with Live Free or Die Hard, I prefer the unrated cut, which has more of a edge to the violence and puts the swearing back in. The big appeal of the Expendables franchise is that they were over the top and insanely violent. To make it PG-13, that completely erases the overall appeal of the franchise from an action standpoint. And then on top of that, by taking the original Expendables and trying to recast them, trying to replace them with a shitty cast of characters that have no charisma, no personality, no chemistry, and come across as a bunch of spoiled fucking brats, does not help the film either. In fact, that just puts it even further into a death spiral. So yeah, the biggest issues to me, it has to come down in terms of the script. It comes down to the characters and it comes down to the decision making. The villain's not that bad. I think the villain in Stonebanks is actually pretty solid. I think the idea of having him be a former expendable that went bad, not it is something that I think works. I like that concept. It's different. I mean, it's not different for uh the genre of action. I mean, that's been done a lot, but for this franchise it's different because that throws in a new wrench into the works that you necessarily didn't know about or weren't aware of. And it also makes the confrontation and the overall feud between Stallone and Mel Gibson's character stronger as a result. So I don't think that's really a problem. His overall plan doing something to do with missiles or whatever the shit is nothing really to write home about. But, I could just deal with it. It seems like it's not even really anything that has to do with missiles. It's just revenge. He just wants revenge on Barney Ross, and that's really about it. It doesn't really have a major big plan. And you know what? There's something to be said about that too. After the first two films, where the first one's about trying to make sure that a revolution is still able to be possible in Valena, uh, and take out a dictator, and then in Expendables 2, that's bigger stakes because this black arms dealer wants to get all this plutonium and wants to sell it and potentially cause World War III. So then in Expendables 3, it's just a simple revenge thing with one guy wanting to get revenge over the other. Okay, all right. But everything's just too overcomplicated, though, after that, because of the introduction of the new cast, which is just a fucking clown car. I mean, this is a clown car of characters. That's a great way to describe it. Just everyone's just crammed together in a tight space, and it smells a bo, an ass, and it's not something that is worthwhile. And once they finally do stumble out of the clown car, uh, a couple of them get trampled along the way, and the rest just don't have what it takes and eventually trip over their own feet. And it's just one of those movies where, yeah, with the characters, with the original Expendables, because of the fact that there's so much of an emphasis on these new Expendables, there isn't a lot new in terms of character depth or scenes for them to interact with one another. In fact, there's a good chunk of the movie where they're not even doing anything. They're just fucking sitting on their asses watching TV. And also, you have other characters despite the new cast. I mean, look at this fucking cover is perfect. Just look at this. There's too many fucking characters. Too many fucking people. How do you develop all these characters? How do you give them all proper amounts of screen time? How do you make it so they all come across as equally badass or worthwhile? You can't, because it's impossible. And the pacing of this film is absolutely miserable and pathetic and just incredibly sluggish, because the action, it's lifeless. It feels like a TV movie at times and doesn't have that extra edge because of the PG-13. And it feels like they're taking the Expendables franchise and making it more serious and trying to turn it into a Mission Impossible film series or something. And that's tonally against what this franchise is. And they started to do that with Expendables 2, and then with Expendables 3, they just kicked things into overdrive and into full gear, into more serious territory, trying to turn it into a clone of some other franchise, which makes it even more generic as a result, and even less special and even less unique than it already was. So you have the original cast, the original Expendables, that go out on a mission. It goes wrong after they go on one, because there's like the first half of the film is like two action sequences back to back, and you think that would be exciting and fun, but they're not. You have this lame opening scene on a train where you have Wesley Snipes, who has meta references to tax evasion when he's asked why he's been in the prison for so long, and constantly references these dog tags of fallen Expendables that are hanging in the plane, like jang-a-lang, jang-a-lang, like it's some kind of fucking badass one-liner. It's not. Who the fuck thought jing-a-lang, jing-a-lang was such a great, lovely, genius one-liner that Wesley Snipes should be saying it a million fucking times? What, the same guy who thought that it was a brilliant idea to have Bruce Willis say I'm on vacation 70 million goddamn times in A Good Day to Die Hard? So yeah, you got jing-a-lang, jing-a-lang, and he plays a knife guy, so that's repetitive. Great. Wesley Snipes is just another guy who uses knives. What, the same knives that were used to murder this franchise? So yeah, you got that sequence, and then it goes to another scene on some kind of shipyard, and that's where Stallone realizes that Stonebanks is still alive, And that's when Caesar gets hurt and then winds up in the hospital. And that's when you have this sad sack bullshit where Stallone is telling his crew to stop and retire because we're too old. No one wanted to see that. And then after that, Stallone goes on this long, boring series of sequences where he's looking for new Expendables with Kelsey Grammer and his character. And the new Expendables, they fucking suck. They're not anything remotely badass or awesome. And they feel like they don't belong here. They feel like tumors. They're tumors on this franchise that should be cut out. And there's next to no reason to give a shit about any of them. And they don't really have anything that makes them stand out in a good way. Ronda Rousey, her character Luna, she's just a man-hating bitch who looks like she smelled a fart in every single scene. Kellan Lutz is just this fucking motorcycle motocross guy who used to be a Marine. Woo. Got this other guy who's a climber and he can fly drones and he's a hacker. Wow, the tech guy. Exactly what this franchise needed, a tech guy. Couldn't you just have Dolph Lundgren be the tech guy? Since he's, in real life, a smart person who has like a bunch of PhDs? No, instead let's make him a joke. So yeah, you got this guy, Mars, played by Victor Ortiz, who, he's just a soldier. And the way he's introduced, he's just punching a punching bag. And, oh, he can punch things. Great. Yeah, we totally need that guy. Because he could punch things. We didn't have anyone else in the crew who could punch things. Oh, wait, no. No, he's added to the crew because he can shoot a shotgun. Or he can shoot guns. Like, no one else in the fucking Expendables can shoot guns? What does that have to do with we're too old? We can't shoot guns anymore? What the fuck? I was like, is there anyone else from this team? No, I think that's it, really. That's the new blood. That's your new blood. A hacker guy who shoots parachutes out of his ass. Ball busting bitch with a stink face. A guy who can shoot guns. And a guy who can ride a motorcycle. Wow. Oh, also Antonio Banderas and his fucking motor mouth. Yeah, there we go. That's your new Expendables. Why? Why were they needed? And when they go on their first mission with Stallone's character, because Barney Ross wants his crew to not be involved because he's afraid that they could die and wants them to live long lives, but he's not afraid about risking his own life and risking the lives of these young kids because he's a selfish asshole in this movie. But anyway, okay, goes on this mission. It's a lame mission. It's Mission Impossible shit done badly. And once they think they got Stonebanks, whoops, nope, Stonebanks had a plan B, and they all get fucking captured. So the film doesn't even establish this team as being a formidable threat or a formidable group, because the first time they go on a mission, they get fucking captured like a bunch of fucking pussies. And then you get to the climax where, Stallone's character realizes that his new team was a bunch of fucking useless amateurs that now need to be rescued. So now he gets the gang back together again with the help of Banderas, who won't shut the fuck up. And that's the whole point of the fucking character. He won't shut up. And you even have characters in the film being like, shut up. And that's supposed to be funny. It's not. And it's embarrassing for Banderas because you know he's more capable. You know he can do better than this. And then you get to a long, extended, like 30, 40-minute long action sequence that has all the fucking impact and adrenaline rush of a pillow fight because everything is shot in a lethargic and lame fashion. You have these characters in terms of the new Expendables that get broken out that you don't give a fuck about. You got Harrison Ford and his grumpy ass who has replaced Bruce Willis's character because Bruce Willis did not want to do the film unless he was paid even more money because he's a greedy fuck. And so that leads to Harrison Ford, who admittedly did a pretty good job with what he had to work with as the FBI guy and helicopter pilot. Schwarzenegger's here looking even more fucking ragged than he did in the last movie. And yeah, it's this whole extended action sequence in these abandoned buildings with all kinds of gunfire and explosions, and it's not exciting at all. Like it wouldn't even excite a fucking corpse to rise out of the grave. I know that doesn't make any sense, but neither does this movie's decision making. Yeah, Expendables 3. Let's make it PG-13. Cut its balls off. Yeah, let's have the original Expendables be replaced and be considered to be too old. And then the replacements fucking suck. And so it makes no sense why they were replaced to begin with. Let's have Wesley Snipes actually come back and be a part of this franchise like he was intended to in the first place. But he couldn't do it because he was an idiot and didn't want to pay his taxes. But we have him back, and his character's going jing-a-ling, jing-a-lang, and he's just a fucking knife guy. He's the knife guy 2.0. Saying stupid lines like the knife before Christmas. And by the end of the film, okay, yeah, it pretty much happened. It ends the way you think it will. The new crew earns the respect of the old guard, the old Expendables. They decide to team up for a gang bang. Might as well. So they team up and they're going to be partners in the future. And that's because they managed to stop Stone Banks. And speaking of Stone Banks, there was a little fight between Stallone and Mel Gibson where Stallone just punched him a few times and then stabs his ass and says one of the lamest one-liners since he went boom in Escape Plan. I am the Hague. What? I am the Hague? Lame. So, yeah. And then you have like a Captain Planet joke at the end. This new crew was talking about with the powers combined, we blah blah blah. It's like, what the fuck? This is supposed to be the cool, hip, new Expendables, and they're making fucking references to Captain Planet. Is this a joke? Am I being trolled? Is that what this whole movie was? It was just a massive giant troll job? The fuck? God. And the cast, I mean, Stallone, here he just is completely sleepwalking through this role. Jason Statham's trying, but he's barely in the movie, barely has anything to do. I wouldn't be surprised if he spent most of the movie jacking off. Antonio Banderas is Galgo. All he does is just run his mouth and is not funny. He's the most unfunny comic relief you will ever see in your entire life in an action movie. Well, I don't know. I would say there are some other instances that are worse, but the thing is, I don't know if they are as annoying. Jet Li, once again, barely in the movie to really leave much of an impression. Wesley Snipes is Dr. Death. Most memorable thing about his character is he's going jing-a-lang, jing-a-lang. Dolph Lundgren, once again, wasted, given nothing to do, probably jacking off alongside Jason Statham. Kelsey Grammer, did a fine job. I liked his scenes with Stallone. But I don't think we really needed him, and we didn't really need this whole thing about finding a new crew. Randy Couture, fucking useless. Terry Crews spends most of the movie in the hospital because he got shot in the ass. Kellan, Lutz, Ronda Rousey, Glen, Powell, Victor Ortiz, the undependables. Or no, the unacceptables, because their efforts are completely and totally unacceptable in every single fashion. Mel Gibson, one of the few good things about the movie. I like his performance as the bad guy, as Stonebanks. I wish it was in a better movie, but it's not. So he's fucking wasted. Might as well have flushed his efforts down the fucking toilet or the porta potty. And when it comes to other technical aspects, the film is nothing at all noteworthy. I mean, the music by Brian Tyler, once again, just recycling cues from the first film. The cinematography by Peter Menzies Jr., bland, just garbage for the most part, because the film doesn't look that impressive. The editing by Sean Albertson and Paul Harb at times is really fucking bad. Things are just way too chaotic and messy looking, especially during some of the action scenes or anything involving a car chase. And it's too fucking long. 126 minutes? Are you fucking kidding me? Expendables 3 did not need to be over 2 hours. There was nothing of substance here that would warrant that. That's why this film is so horribly boring and slow paced, because it's too fucking long. None of the action sequences really get your blood pumping that much or make you want to go fuck yeah. Really, they make you want to go fuck you and fuck this movie and fuck me, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me. For deciding to waste my goddamn time with the Expendables 3 again. This time around in the longer version. That's even more boring and even more frustrating and even more shitty. So, as you can see, not a fan of the Expendables 3. I think this is just three dicks in your ass, and it's just one of those movies where there's really next to nothing going for it. And like I've said numerous times in this video, the decisions that the screenwriters and the producers made here for money are unacceptable. They turned this franchise into a $2 hooker on the street who's willing to do anything for money. And as a result, hey, you turned it into a $2 hooker. So you know what? The franchise became really adept at sucking dick. So, yeah, Expendables 3 is easily the worst film in the series. And I don't want to see any more Expendables movies. You already twisted my balls. You already punched me in the fucking face. You pissed down my throat. You took a shit all over me. Why the fuck would I want you to do it again? No. You know what? You do a massive favor to myself and to any other fans of this franchise if you just didn't make any more of these movies. Because you forgot what it takes to make a good Expendables film. It just needs to be fun, over the top, and full of crazy action. And have plenty of scenes with these old school action heroes kicking ass and taking names. That's all you fucking needed. You didn't need to give it a personality lobotomy and take away the personality and the charisma of these characters, or try to make things too serious. You didn't have to make things into more of a joke and a hardy har har. Let's be like the Marvel Avengers, but with 80s action stars. You didn't have to cut off its fucking balls and neuter it with a soldering iron and a fucking chainsaw. You didn't have to do that. So, no. You forgot how to make a good Expendables movie, so I don't want you to make any more. This is just one of those films that is just sad. It really is. This film, you could make the argument it killed the revival of 80s, 90s old school action. This movie killed it. Curb stomped it so hard it decapitated it and kicked its head in the fucking shitter. So yeah, that's my rant on the Expendables 3. Uh, Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.